believe that, and then take seriously when Jesus said, look, what it's all about is loving God and then loving your neighbors. And for us to restore the idea of the sacredness of neighbors. Now, geographical neighbors is a good start. I heard this church, for example, I was just hearing during one of the breaks, that this church threw a block party and said, let's get to know our neighbors around our physical building. Great idea. What a fantastic idea. If our churches would love their neighbors, it would be a nice start. But then what would happen is if our churches said, look, to be a member of this church, one of your primary responsibilities, yeah, we'd like you to tithe. Yeah, we'd like you to show up on Sundays. But one of your primary responsibilities is that you invite all of your neighbors over for dinner. I mean, wouldn't this be an amazing thing? We said, you know, within your next year here, is it too much to ask that you would find 6 neighbors in geographical proximity to you, and you'll invite them over for dinner? And we said, this is just what a Christian does. You see, it's hospitality to your geographical neighbors, your regional neighbors, the people that you see frequently, your experiential neighbors, whoever you find yourself next to right now. This is part of what the Good Samaritan story tells us, that when somebody says to Jesus, who is your neighbor? He actually tells that story to answer the question. Your neighbor is who you're next to, who you see. Your intentional neighbors. This is when we talk about missionaries. In a sense, what we do is we say, let's have some people who don't already have neighbors who know Christ. Let's intentionally go and be a neighbor to some of these people. And when you're around these people, then they sort of say, why are you here? And then they get to tell the story of Jesus that explains why they're here. They're here to be neighbors. It's really all about being neighbors. If we took that seriously, it'd be powerful. Number 3, I'd suggest that what we say we need to learn to do is to verbally identify with Jesus. I'm a follower of Jesus. Well, I believe in Jesus. Or I try to follow the teachings of Jesus in my life. I'm not saying you just identify yourself with Christianity. Because there's a lot in Christianity we not only can, but we need to apologize for. And I think you've heard the word apologetics. Part of apologetics should be apology. Not I'm really sorry I'm a Christian. Not that. But I'm really sorry for how we Christians make a lot of mistakes. That doesn't mean you distance yourself by saying, well, those other Christians make a lot of mistakes. You don't gain credibility by distancing yourself from the mistakes of other Christians. You show yourself to be arrogant. But if you say, we Christians have made so many mistakes, that shows people that you're honest and that you're learning from our mistakes. But you're not just saying identifying with Christianity, and not just identifying with your denomination or church. But we say, look, I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm a disciple of Jesus. I'm an apprentice of Jesus. It doesn't matter if it's confusing to people. The most confusing word is Christian. Before, you might have noticed that when April's up here, she said, the word that really bothers me is Christian. And one of the reasons that bothers her, I think, is that, and bothers a lot of people, is that the word Christian seems to be a word now that means somebody who's set up against other people. It doesn't have to mean that, but that's what it means to a lot of people. And so what I'm suggesting, we love God. The God Jesus told us, we really believe he was right. Second, we love our neighbor like Jesus said. Third, we just try to verbally identify with Jesus. Let me tell you, I think this takes courage. I think this takes boldness sometimes. And sometimes it's going to mean we're persecuted to say we're a follower of Jesus. So I'm saying this is not always easy, but I think this is important. When I was a new Christian, I started praying. And I remember in my high school, the last year or two of high school, and then in my college years, I prayed, God, I hope you'll give me some chance today to verbally identify with you. And this has just been a prayer of my life, and now it's an honor to identify myself with Jesus. You might say, well, but then you're identifying yourself with something that's misunderstood. Well, Jesus was misunderstood. So being misunderstood is okay. It's not so bad. But we start somewhere. And then number 4, I would suggest that we teach what Jesus taught in the way that Jesus taught. And what Jesus taught cannot be written on a bumper sticker. There's a lot of different things. But when we're just teaching what Jesus taught, in the way that Jesus taught, I think we should feel great. Jesus taught through story. Jesus taught through question. Jesus taught through conversation. Jesus just planted seeds all over the place, and he wasn't worried about getting it all solved right away. He had a very high degree of faith that if you plant seeds of